right. Well, welcome, Mckayla. We're so excited to have you here on the Art of Hobbiness. Thanks for joining us today.
Yes, Mckayla.
We're so excited to
Of
chat with
course.
you and all the fun things it sounds like you're doing and your hobbies. So first, before we get started, would you just tell our listeners about like who you are, what you're up to? We'd love to just give
Intro
away.
yourself.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. I'm Mckayla. I am the mama behind multiple blogs. The amount of blogs that I've written in the past, like, I made it my job too, so that helps. But I had like 4 or 5 personal blogs going on because it really is, that's my hobby too. I
Yeah,
just
I love
love
it.
freaking
Yeah.
writing. Um, but I am a mom of 3, and my oldest right now is 5. My youngest, she'll be 2 in
Oh
Oh,
my
wow.
goodness.
not even 3 months. Like it's
Oh
it's
my.
crazy. We're forever, sh 1 year apart somewhere because I've got a middle one floating in there. She's
Wow.
she's
Mhm.
3, so they're always either 1 year or 2 years apart. And let me
You're a
tell you, it's
busy
a
lady. Yeah.
handful.
Yeah.
Oh, but I really enjoy hobbies in general. I am known for starting and stopping 20 like weekly, but lately it's been crochet. That's been my thing for almost a little over a year now because I started it last Christmas and recording this right after Christmas. So, it's my 1 year
Oh,
crochet anniversary.
Wonderful.
nice.
Happy
Yeah.
anniversary. Well, I feel like you're really fascinating. You talked about how
Mhm.
like you just started hobbies and you're notorious for also finishing them. But what actually helped us find you is you actually, you alluded to your blogs. You have a blog all about hobbies
Yes.
and how to start hobbies. And it's what I really liked about it is it's specifically geared towards
Yeah.
moms. And it
Hmm.
even calls out the fact that
Hmm.
moms tend to not really have
A
a
lot of
lot of
time.
time
Hmm.
until the babies are asleep, which means it's late night. And you promote using that late night time to explore
Hmm.
hobbies. Tell our audience about your hobby podcast or
So
blog.
the my blog, so it's called The Hobby Mom, and it actually was stemmed. I was like, oh my God, I don't even know where to start because I used to play games. That was my thing. Like I would play video games, and that was the way like me and my husband would bond and connect. And we played different games before we even met, and it's always been a life. Like I had a GameCube the weekend it launched, but I can't log on to a game. I don't have time to. Like by the time that I'm settled and I'm getting into it, like I feel like I don't have enough time to get anything done. And plus that also I feel like there's a difference in how much focus you need. Like you really have to focus on a game, and I feel like I just can't watch my children on my peripherals, and I cannot play a game out of my peripherals. Like there's just it's not possible. Now that my 5-year-old's kind of getting into games, and my 2-year-old, my almost 2-year-old's kind of getting there. I could probably reintroduce it, and I'm trying to like bring it back into my life because I do enjoy it. But I was like, I have to find something like this. I can't just exist like this because blogging was it, but then, blogging is also my job. I can't write 24/7. It's just as time consuming, or focus heavy as gaming is. And I was like, I gotta have something to do. Um, so I started the Hobby Mom, and I was like, well, I guess I'll just put it on here too. We'll everybody will do it together. And it really kind of kept me accountable there for a while. I was like, I'm kind of dropping off, but maybe I could like find some cute patterns and make a roundup so that it's my list to come back to. And I tried a lot of hobbies. I tried paint by numbers. I tried embroidery because I think embroidery is really cool, especially the modern embroidery patterns. Like
So
they,
beautiful.
Yeah.
yeah, they are awesome. Like people are getting really, really creative, but needles.
Yeah.
And so you
Yeah.
can't just leave a project laying around with a 1-year-old
Yep.
who can walk and grab it for it to be easily accessible for you too, because
Good point.
there's
Yeah.
freaking needles. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
So that one was out. Paint by numbers requires a space for you to keep it.
Mhm.
If you're gonna, pick it up and put it down, or, you have the risk of a toddler smearing paint everywhere. And I'm sorry, but I love their creativity and they can smear it on their paint as much as they want
Yeah.
to. But if I get halfway through a paint by numbers
Yeah.
and there is a handprint dragged across, like I might cry.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, and then the same with reading. Like I could do reading, but I would end up staying up until like 4 a.m. trying
Mhm.
to finish a book
Yes.
series because
Yeah.
I'm just a
Yeah.
compulsive reader. Like
Right.
I'm very much a compulsive reader. I've not broken that habit, always had it, but I can't stay up till 4 a.m. either.
Right.
So that's what led me to crochet. And if you go on the Hobby Mom now, a lot of the recent things are crochet. I bring out the Cricut and do some crafting when birthday parties come
Oh
around because
yeah.
that's a big thing for
Yeah.
me is birthday parties.
Mhm.
And I'll do their signs and I did my daughter's, oh my goodness, the thing that goes across the high chair, the banner,
Banner?
the birthday
Mhm.
banner. Yeah. The I did the birthday banner and it was a lot of fun. But crochet, the hooks are not dangerous if you have the big ones, like at
No.
least not nearly as dangerous as a
Yeah.
needle or whatever
Right.
skinny ones are.
Mhm.
A lot of the yarn is bigger if you're using the bigger hooks, and then even if you're not like it's easier than like thread
Hmm.
Mhm.
to keep up with. And if my kid gets into the yarn, I can typically like respool it, like it's not a big deal, but it yarn, you're just kind of screwed there. You're just hoping for the best. So it's kind of I would say the hobby mom's kind of been like my journey to finding crochet at
Yeah.
this moment.
Amazing.
Hopefully it'll kind of like diversify again here
Mhm.
um in the summer because I'm gonna try and pick up gardening and we've kind of picked up a little bit of livestock. We've got chickens now and I would love to
Fun.
have some goats and
Mhm.
I'm trying to push for a cow.
All
I'd love to
right.
have a cow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get a cow.
But I don't know if I've got my husband convinced on this one. He really
Yeah.
wants pigs for some reason.
Really? I think
Like,
a cow
why?
would be easier than pigs.
Yeah, that's what I said. I was like,
Or less
why
messy.
would we get a cow?
Yeah.
But whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
That's so funny. You
That's
bring up such
awesome.
a good
Yeah.
point that I don't think we really have
Mhm.
touched on much on this
Mhm.
show, but like how some hobbies are not necessarily toddler
Right.
friendly,
True.
and you
hmm
to
Yeah.
kind of be like keep that in your mindset
Mhm.
when exploring
Mhm.
new hobbies with new intentions in the new
Mhm.
year, right?
Yeah.
Um,
yeah.
so it's a very good point for those moms that are trying to explore
Yeah. It's definitely
Yeah.
like
I mean,
about the ages
I
of
have
children.
I have a friend who she's really deep into hobbies. She does knitting, crochet, and she's kind of who helped me along the way because some of that stuff is crazy, like that
Mhm.
magic circle, magic ring, whatever you want to call it. Like it is,
It's always good to have a friend to help you, keep you
it
accountable.
does. And then you can have like craft nights because
Definitely.
it's a little bit easier
Mhm.
and all that good stuff. But she kept suggesting different things and I would be like, all right, I'll try it, but I don't know how well it's gonna work because she I think she suggested cross stitch and gave me like a Christmas pattern and I couldn't even start it. I like pulled it out and then immediately my littles were like hands on the needles and I'm like, oh my gosh,
Mhm.
Yeah.
this is not gonna go great.
So, tell me a little bit about, like you said that you're like a constant starter and stopper, but it doesn't sound like in a bad way. It sounds like you're just a very explorative person. Do you have any recommendations for our audience, who, are going to try to start new hobbies and stop? How do they be okay with the stopping part of it? Have you figured out a trick to that yet?
I approached it with and I'm trying this because I want to find something I enjoy, but it's okay. Like I'm going into it knowing that this could be my thing, but it could also be like something I need to set aside. And I think it also helped that I didn't come into it with the idea that, okay, I'm going to turn this into a business or I'm
Yeah.
going to make projects for everybody throughout the year and give everybody like crocheted gifts for Christmas. Like it was very non-commitmental. I was like, I'm trying to find something that's going to make me happy. And I would love it if it could continue, but
Mhm.
if it can't, then I will come back to it in the future. If I enjoy it, I will come back to it. So, for example, before I had my second, well, actually, when I had my first, I did winter guard. I don't know if you know what that is, but like color
Yeah.
guard with the
Mhm.
band.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So winter guard is it's without the band, but you can do it as a younger adult. I would say like your early 20s, 19, 18,
Mhm.
right when you graduate. And so I had my son young. I had him when I was 19 or no, I just turned 20. So I had him after I turned 20. And after I had him, I joined a winter guard. It wasn't even 2 months after. And so that kept me like going after him. And I had never done winter guard. We didn't have it in our
Wow.
school, but
Mhm.
it really kept me going and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was a great hobby to have because you do not get paid for doing that. It's
Yeah.
very much a
Yeah.
hobby. That is your free time being committed. And my husband got involved and I met great friends and but it had to stop. We didn't have the money because it is expensive. You have equipment you have to buy, you have the practices you got to go to. So as my son was getting bigger and he couldn't be contained on a blanket and he was running around like we just couldn't do it. I couldn't have childcare every weekend. So I stopped. And then after I had my daughter, I was like, okay, my first daughter, I was like, okay, well, I can't do winter guard again because I think I'm aged out for what I was looking for. I'd have to find a new place to do it anyways, and there's no way I can commit that time now with two versus
Yeah.
one.
Right.
So I picked up aerial yoga and I would
Oh.
drive to town after they had a 30-minute class, or it might have been an hour, but they had a class that was after bedtime. So we'd put them to bed, my husband would settle, and then I'd drive to town, which is actually like a 20 to 30-minute drive. We live out in the middle of nowhere.
Mm.
Um, and I would just spend an hour doing aerial yoga and chilling and just enjoying time. And I mean, eventually that had to stop too, because then I got pregnant with my third. And I think technically you can do it with your third one, but I had really bad preeclampsia and I just felt
Yeah.
awful. I couldn't do anything. So I was like, all right, well then aerial yoga's gone for now. And I really wanted to get back into it after I had my third, but timing just wasn't right. And
Right.
plus, it is a recurring expense. Like you don't always have money for it to come to pay for a class weekly. So I
Hmm.
was like, all right, well, we'll let go of it. But when my kids get back in school or my business grows or maybe one of my blogs gets monetized, like I'll have some extra money to come back to it. Like it's not going anywhere and I'm not going anywhere, hopefully, but like
Yeah, no, but
I'll
you
come
have
back
grown.
to
It's such
it.
a
Like
great
ideally.
reminder that we have these seasons of our lives and we can't always do everything we want to do, but we make the best of it, right? And
Hmm.
you just have to find the joy in that time in your life. And I
Hmm.
think it sounds like you've done a really nice job of being able to do that, to maintain that. So it's very inspiring.
Well,
So yeah.
yeah. Even
Hmm.
just with, like you calling it to the point that like just because you had to step away for that moment doesn't mean that it's done forever.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
you can always
Right.
circle back. Like just because you walked away, it's not a finite, that's it, I'm done.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes I need to remind myself of
Hmm.
that because I think sometimes I think when I walk away from these things, I'm like, no, I'll
Never
never
do it
get to do
again.
it
Right.
again.
Hmm.
Although calligraphy, I would love to never ever do again.
Yeah,
Um,
I had one experience with calligraphy. My grandmother is just like me. She's very much a starter stopper. Um, she just follows her passion. She's like, I'm feeling like making soap this week. And then she's like, well, I think I want to pick up scrapbooking. And my grandpa supports her
That's
that's
amazing.
throughout
wonderful.
the entire process.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. I love their little thing they have going on. But she's like, Mckayla, I don't like to do calligraphy anymore. I'm kind of done with it for the moment. Would you like this kit? And I'm like, sure,
Yeah,
awful.
sure.
I do not have I don't know, the dexterity or the
Yeah.
patience maybe to like
Yeah.
sit there and go, okay. And I'm like, nope, we're done.
Yeah, no, my normal handwriting is very much like chaotic and fast.
Yeah.
And so to like try to slow down and do calligraphy
Hmm.
it was almost like torture for me. I was like, there is no amount of beauty that's gonna come out of this that I'm gonna hit with right now.
Yeah, it's like,
I
no, the payoff is not worth it here.
Yeah.
no, I'm trying to get the sentence out before the thought is gone. Like just go. It's like, God, come on.
You're not a slow hobbier.
So, yeah, especially in that sense, it's like trying to get your
Yeah.
kid out the door in the morning and you're just
Yes.
trying to get the code. Like just
Hmm.
put your arm in this hole
You
for
just
the
end up
love of
fighting.
God.
Yes.
That was calligraphy for me.
Yeah.
That's it felt like a toddler that I was just battling
Yeah.
to get outside and I just couldn't get them outside. That was my experience with that. So you kind of alluded to the fact that like it seems like you have a lot of support around you,
Mhm.
not even just like your grandmother. You also alluded to your friend, but I think you also mentioned that your husband also has found some success in hobbies.
Hmm.
It sounds like you've got a really good hobby community. Tell
Yeah.
me about that. How did you
Mhm.
establish that?
I would say it is kind of a more recent thing. So, it's always been a little bit chaotic. For in the beginning, the only hobby I had was the winter guard. Like, and it was very much on set days. Like I had a Saturday and then I think I had like weekday afternoon. But like outside of that time, I wasn't able to tackle anything.
Mm.
So it was very set and it was just me and my husband and he wasn't involved at first. And then I like told him I was like I need this support for me to like not go crazy. And he kind of stepped up for that. And then we kind of fell off when after the second because life just kind of got busy. And my mom actually pushed me to do the aerial yoga and kind of just get out of the house. And she was like, I will cover your first like month or two. And if you can stay consistent with it, like that's great. But I just want you to have some time out of the house
That's
because
really awesome.
she couldn't watch the kids. Like we couldn't get weekdays off. His family is in Charleston, which is about an hour and a half away.
Mhm.
So it just wasn't possible. We have a lot of I mean, my family's really close. We all live right here. The only downside is we have a lot of elderly family members, so they take constant care. They're close because we need to take care of them
Mhm.
because they can't live far away. So that means there's not always a lot of like we get these periods where we can, have a date night every week or something, and then we have another period where someone's health isn't doing well or work is busy for somebody else, and it just gets a little bit more chaotic and we can't do anything. But
Mm.
I would say in these past 2 years since my third was born, it was a few months after my third was born, we went through like a really just rough period, and because he got a new job, he had a promotion at work, and he's like, it's really good money. I think I can do it. And I'm like, well, if this is what you want to do, and that's fine. And it was like immediately after we had my daughter. It like not the week after he was in this new
Oh, wow.
position, and excuse me, but it was way more time consuming and had late nights and was way more stressful. And I was like, if we can do that. And eventually he was like, I can't manage people. So he stepped back. And after he stepped back, we had a really serious conversation. I said, I can't this I was happy to do it if this is what you wanted to do, but I need you to kind of figure out what you want to do so that we can create like an atmosphere, a little world for ourselves that can function in some way because, unfortunately when you work from home and that person is not necessarily there to see what you're doing, there's kind of a misconception about what you're working on.
Yes.
And it's not just with him, it's the entire family. They're like, we know you sit over there and you work at home, but like, what does that mean? So I get a lot of calls from my sister and my mom. Not normally my mom because she doesn't have kids, but like, who are my sister's like, can you watch my littles today? Daycare can't have them, and sometimes it's okay, but sometimes like, we've done this once a week for the past 3 weeks. I really can't because
Yeah.
I too have to work. So he
Mhm.
kind of had that also that misconception of what I was really doing during the day,
Mhm.
and so he was like, well, can't you just do it earlier? And I'm like, well, between dropping the kids off and, you staying late and actually needing to sleep, there's no time for
Ah,
myself.
hard.
Mhm.
And I was like, so if you're this isn't what you want to do, then I need time for myself. That way I can put more energy into our relationship, into the kids, into my work, so that part can maybe support us more financially. So we really sat down and just mapped it out. It really required us to be a little frank with each other in that
I know.
portion because
Yeah.
we weren't having any issues anywhere else. But when it came to having time for myself and time for him, because even I was like, well, all you do is, when you sit down, you're playing your game and all that stuff. And he's like, well, this is kind of like my reprieve. And I'm like, you're right. That would be your reprieve just as this is mine.
Mhm.
It's just it looks different. So there was a bit of miscommunication there, and now we've also like talked about how to communicate if we need time versus
Mhm.
when we're just sitting down because we have time. Um, so that, the other kind of knows what to expect. Like, did you have a really rough day? Yeah, go ahead and sit down. I've
Mm.
Mhm.
got this for an hour, and then when you're done, we'll swap off, we'll tag team this, and we'll be fine. So we've really worked it out, and he's recently picked up woodworking. He
Oh.
picked he picked it up before our third was born, but babies come in. Woodworking's a little time consuming
Yes,
and
I would
Mhm.
imagine.
space
And a baby's
space
around
Yeah,
for
eating.
that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's a
yeah,
little dangerous too.
yeah.
So once our third was born, he kind of had to take a break from it. But now that she's getting bigger and we have a little bit more freedom to do stuff like that, he's gotten back into it. And I wish I had. He made me a little strawberry tray, like a charcuterie tray,
Oh, yeah,
um, per my request. And we did a lot of Christmas things, and he's really enjoyed that lately. So I'm really happy for him to have found something
that's great.
um, that
Did
he can do.
did you say he's trying to turn that into a business or
That's his goal.
yeah?
Part of it is going to be like a business where he wants to sell like the serving trays and the charcuterie
Sure.
boards, and I'll use my I have my motherhood blog, not the hobby mom,
Hmm.
but I'll use my motherhood blog to share the little charcuterie boards I
Hmm.
create and have for lunches
Mhm.
to kind of get some traffic there. But really he just wants to create stuff. Like he used to do the cutting boards, and he made a beautiful chessboard one year. It was so pretty. But he wants to have something just because wood's not cheap, so he has to have a portion to support it.
Sure.
to buy the materials
Yeah,
for
of
the stuff
course.
that he enjoys.
Yeah.
True. That's the crutch of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so
You-
expensive
I
for
want to
sure.
just stop
Yeah.
and just only do my hobbies, but you
Right.
got to have something that
Right.
funds the hobby.
Yes.
You're like,
Yes.
dang it, all right, I'll have a full-time job.
Yeah. I wanted to
Yes,
go back to
exactly.
like the point where you guys had that very pivotal conversation. It
Yes,
sounds
me too.
like we've talked about that before, how important it is to have supportive spouse or significant
Mhm.
other. And
Yeah.
like kudos to you for doing that, because I think that's such a key point into creating that space for yourself, is just asking for what you need, right? And sometimes that's very challenging as a mom and a woman who's giving all the time,
Mm-hmm.
to feel, we talk about, we feel a lot of mom guilt or just guilt in general, to ask for that time. So it's I think that's just a really important point to like remind everybody that it's okay to ask
Mm-hmm.
for what you need, and it does make you better. It's not selfish.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you better as a mom and a woman, and like, so yeah.
Well, and to add to that, the point that you said that, sometimes that self-care hobby time looks different for other
Yeah.
people, right? And
Yeah.
I think before I really went into this hobby journey, I don't think I had any hobbies at all. But my husband has many hobbies, and I really struggled with understanding where he came from, because his hobbies, even now, I don't feel like look like what my current hobbies look like. And so I struggled with being forgiving sometimes on his ones that took a really long time, like 5 hours. I'd be like, what could you possibly be doing? Whereas now that I'm kind of in that world, now I'm starting to kind of understand how that space is needed, and it does look very different. So no, I agree with you. I think that's really good point to that.
So you've got your Kama Mama company, right?
Yeah, the Kama Mama, yes.
Kama Mama, and then you've got Hobby Mom, then you have another motherhood blog as well.
Yes, I do.
That's amazing. I love that. So
when I'm in the mood to write something, I just go to whatever website I'm feeling. I'm like, all right, I think I'm gonna talk about motherhood today. Or because I do the birthdays, I'm like, okay, this is like a good memory. I'm gonna put it on the mom blog, and we're gonna have this forever.
Yeah.
Sweet.
It's been really nice. I actually I feel like, especially in that first year, memories are so hard. I feel like I have a hard time remembering anything, but we did so many projects. We did the birthdays for each of our littles. I always do something special for the first, a little bit more so than than the other years.
Yeah.
And since I put it on the blog, I swear I don't forget it as much. I was going through it the other day, and I've got my first daughter's. I've got her first birthday on there, and I was like, I forgot we had these little details in there, because I did an Addie in Wonderland. Because her name's Addie, so I was like, Addie in Wonderland.
Yeah.
So this will
I
be
love
cute.
Yeah.
And then we did like some renovations in the house, and I'm like, oh, I remember when my son did this while we were doing this, and it's just or when he helped, and like all these different things. But it's called Everyday She Moms, and it's a renewal of my very, very first blog, which was called like That Mama Mckayla. But I let it die off. I was like, oh, I can't, why should I be a mom blogger, mom blogger this? And then I had the opportunity, a friend who was also a mom blogger was letting go of her website, Everyday She Moms, and she's like, I have a bunch of contributors from other mom bloggers. None of it's not really her. It wasn't very personal. Like there wasn't like stories from her. It was like stories from other moms on it. And she was like, would you be interested in buying it? I think she had made a post, and I was like, I'm kind of curious. You want to share a little bit?
Sure.
And so she was like, well, if you're interested in buying it, I'll do it for, I think it was like $500. Might have been even $200. It wasn't bad at all. I was like, you know what? I'm kind of interested in flipping a site, because I was like, well, I'll buy it. I'll put some mom blogs on there, and I'll flip it. And then I started blogging. I was like, you know what? I'm going to keep this. I like this. And it just kind of has grown that way. And it's just a lot of fun,
Yeah.
I get to log in and go wherever and do what I need to do.
Yeah. It seems like you've really like built your life, or you're trying to build your life around all the things that bring you joy. Some of them you're trying to make money off of, but really just encompassing everything that is stuff you like to do.
And in a creative space, yeah.
Right, in a creative space. I think that is really cool. I think that's what we probably all want to aspire to some degree, right? Get out of the rat race and find joy in our lives. So I think I appreciate that.
Now it does sound like she suggested like your whole world, like your bubble is kind of really built like the people around you, the activities, the work is built around like this creative space and self-care. Do you find yourself ever getting burnt out of having that at all times around you?
It does actually. I just if I'm very much if I'm feeling it, just stop.
Mm.
Like there's no reason, and that's kind of a recent thing too, is just in the past probably like 6 months, half a year. I was because I was so weird to say like I gotta do this project today, or um, maybe I had a lot of blogs to write for clients because I write for businesses and other blogs, so I'm always creating content. I think my highest when this year at one point I wrote 42 blog posts in a month.
Wow.
Wow.
And
And
like I just did not in a month. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's a lot.
I had to
Yeah.
make sure I heard you correctly.
Yeah, no, I can if I am in a creative zone, I can write 4 to 5 blog posts a day.
Wow.
And they
Wow.
are researched, SEO optimized, all that stuff. But it is a commitment. It is
Yeah.
not something I can
Sure.
do multiple months in a row. But I think I had taken on a lot of work. And then I write for an agency too, and she has blog posts that go out for her clients. And I was like, all right, well, she's having a really good month. I'm having a really good month, and all of this content has to go out. So I ended up writing quite a few blog
Wow.
posts that month, but there was no way I could write for myself. Like I was not doing that. Even reading, just looking at words, I was like, I can't do this. And so that meant crochet was pretty much off. Any free time I had, I think I was pretty much sleeping or we really got into making bread, but not like sourdough and stuff. It's literally just I call it my lazy girl bread.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's you dump it all into a bread machine and you just let the bread machine do all the
Call it
work.
a
You're
day.
like,
Yes.
I'll put it in
Yeah.
My kind
there,
of
and
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
I've made some really good ones and some really not so good ones. I made my first attempt at a garlic and cheese bread was literally like a dense loaf. That was
Yeah.
maybe I put in my normal ingredients and I think it was maybe like half an inch thick and just dense. It was just I don't know what happened. I left it to bake and then came home and my husband was like,
Nope.
I don't know if you want to see this. That's pretty bad.
I'm trying it out.
But I do get burnt out, and when I see or hear the feeling, when I feel the feeling or sense it like coming on, I'm like, just step back. There's no one telling me I can't, first of all.
True. Very good
There's
point.
no consequences to me stepping back.
Yeah.
There are absolutely no consequences for me saying, you know what, I don't really want to crochet tonight or crochet this week or write today for myself. Like besides outside of like work,
Mm-hmm.
there are no consequences to me not doing my hobby or anything like that. And then even me and my friend now have hobby nights, and even if we're like, I don't really want to, we schedule it, and then we're like, well, I don't really want to do it anymore.
Mhm.
We sit there and watch trash TV.
Love
Like,
it.
let's watch
Yeah.
Below Deck or
Yeah.
Sister Wives or something that's like just brain numbing for a minute. Or we watched The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives one day.
Yeah.
Yep.
We just binged it, and I was like, all right, well, fine with me. It's fine with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Just
there's
following
just
your
no,
intuition and yeah.
yeah, like there's no reason, there's no consequence for this.
Mhm.
And that was a really hard thing to realize. Like the only like we need to keep ourselves accountable in
Right.
some way, shape, or form, but
Mhm.
for this, it's not necessary. I mean, if you feel like you have neglected yourself and you're like, I really need to get back into it, that's something else. But
Right.
if you're like, or it's like those Duolingo streaks.
Yeah.
You get to like 200 and you're like,
Yeah.
I'm doing so great. I'm doing so great. And then you're on day 201. You're like, oh my God, I
Yeah.
really cannot log in there. And
Yeah.
it's sending you all these alerts.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's no consequence besides
Sure.
losing your streak, which I mean, it's cool and all, but there's no
Sure.
consequence.
Yeah. Right.
What is it going to take away from you?
Right.
It's such a good point, and it's such a good word to use because like I think I'm a recovering perfectionist, and so like perfectionism like comes into play a lot whenever I'm thinking about that burnout and that stepping back, because I think in my mind I see it as I'm not doing it well. In the beginning I would say I've improved a lot, but I would say in the beginning I felt like if I did take that step back from that burnout, then I wasn't doing it perfectly, and then I was really being hard on myself about it, and I really had to sit there and think about like, why am I being so hard on myself about it? Is because do I feel like I'm disappointing somebody? Who am I disappointing right now? I'm not even disappointing myself. If anything, I'm disappointing myself. I'm disappointed in myself.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
I'm like going through like this like
You're only
cycle.
hurting yourself, right?
Hurting
Yeah,
myself by
right,
hurting myself, right?
right.
I was like being a bully to myself
Yeah,
about it.
yeah.
It's funny that you bring up the Duolingo streak because I'm currently doing Duolingo, and so I was like, I almost lost my streak last week, and I was like, why do I care?
Yeah.
But it's, the word consequences is such a good word because it's like there really are
Mhm.
no consequences. It's just you just got to be humble to yourself, take
Mhm.
care of yourself,
Mhm.
and sometimes that really is just seeing what isn't bringing you joy and taking a step from that
Mhm.
joy. And as we already talked about earlier, it doesn't mean that you can't come back to that. It
Right.
just means that maybe just this day you need a break, or maybe just this month,
Mhm.
or maybe the season has changed
Yeah.
and you don't
Yep.
want to do a hobby inside the house anymore. Now you want to go outside and
Right.
do your hobby. And
Right.
it's I just think just being kind to yourself,
Mhm.
I think that was a great point you made.
Mhm.
It also comes into being a little lenient with what you're calling a hobby. I feel like
Mhm.
people are like, well, I'm not crocheting,
That's
but I
matter.
really like making Cuban coffee, or like
Yes.
it's all, if it brings you joy, it is a hobby. If you like to
Yes.
do it multiple times or like do it once a week, every few days or something, and it just brings you joy, it's something out of your usual.
Right.
That is a hobby. Like
Right.
Yep.
call it whatever you want to, like, but it is a hobby.
On this here
Yes.
podcast, we very much
Yeah.
agree with that. We
Yeah.
think brunching should be a
Yeah.
hobby.
It should be.
It is one of my favorite things to
Yes.
do,
Yes.
and I would love to do it every week.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
love it. I love a good brunch. That is.
Mhm.
no, but I think that's an excellent reminder to our
Mhm.
audience is that yes, like it doesn't have to be like traditional hobby in a hobby sense, which I think prior to me starting this podcast, when I was trying to find hobbies on my own, it happened it was around this time every year. It was a New Year's resolution. I was trying to think of a new hobby.
Yep.
I'd go to Google and I'd Google hobbies, and it was always like the same four things, just because I didn't know what really to plug into
Right.
Google to help
Yeah.
Google guide me, right? I literally knew nothing about hobbies. I was just like, what would a hobby that a woman would like at this time of year? And I feel like it's I think that I was so close-minded about what the hobby meant that I couldn't get myself out of that rut.
Mhm.
And so I think just changing what that word looks like, the definition of the word, and just putting that it's joy. I think that's
Mhm.
great.
Mhm.
I think it's really
Yeah.
great.
Yep.
So smart.
Well, what's on the horizon for you? What do you have anything upcoming plans or for your
I
hobby or for your
Yeah, any
you
new
know
hobbies you haven't tried yet that you're really looking forward to diving into that's on the
not
horizon
or your
here?
businesses, anything?
Oh, yeah.
not until summer. I'm kind of like in a busy season with um the Kama Mama. I have a summit that I'm doing, a virtual summit that I'm doing at the end of this month, and then I have a live speaking opportunity
Oh,
Yeah.
in Nashville in April. So like I'm trying to get some digital products out there. So like I'm pretty heavy in the back end work, and then my husband of course wants help setting up his business. So
sure.
I'm doing all that.
Yeah.
So until summer, I'm not really starting anything new, but summer we're gonna do some gardening. I want to get a little bit more into bread and baking. I hate cooking.
Yeah.
Absolutely hate cooking, but I will bake
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
all day long. I
Hot
love
mix or
baking.
baking. Okay.
But for now, I have a stack. I don't know exactly how I managed to grab this. I know my grandmother just kind of showed up with it one day. They were we've always lived in this area, so we had an old family member pass away a few years ago, and suddenly my grandmother was like, "Well, you're doing crochet. Would you like these?" And she shows up with a box full of crochet magazines with patterns. Like they're
Oh,
just filled with patterns. Some of them are as old as 1951
Wow.
oh, wow.
up until like 2005.
That's
And
incredible.
I think what I'm going to do is starting this week is just pull a random one,
Okay.
flip to a page, or maybe comb through it to find one that I find intriguing and just crochet it. No, like
Fun.
nothing
Sounds
special, and
really fun,
just,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
yeah, I was like, how am I going to go through I'm staring at the stack right now, but it's a good shelf.
Wow.
So there's a lot of them in there. There's Christmas stuff, Easter. I think the one on top is like a crochet birdhouse clock, cuckoo clock. I'm not quite sure, but like these are all things. The problem with crochet is it's unless you are thinking of it directly, you will not find the pattern
Mm.
Oh,
because you can't like if you look up crochet patterns, it's going to be very similar ones over and over again. You
Mm.
probably get some Grammy squares, some I'm gonna say it wrong, amigurumi or something like that,
I
which
have
is the
no
stuffed
idea, but
animals.
you're okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, but you're gonna get the same things over and over again. So I was like, how am I gonna find new things besides like combing through Pinterest all
Yeah,
day,
Truly.
trying to find something? And I was like, well, this will give me new things to try. And
sure.
you
Yeah.
know, I think what I'm gonna start doing on the Hobby Mom, it's not just rounding up projects I would like to do. I think I'm gonna start rounding up projects that I have done
Nice.
and
Great.
sharing, pointing people to the patterns because, I did so many last year and I feel like I didn't show anybody. And I'm
Yeah.
so proud of them.
Oh, you
Aw.
should.
Well,
So I
that
was
sounds
like, well,
like
I'll
a
just
Cool.
great direction to go since there'll be a lot of unique patterns that people probably don't have access to.
Oh
So
yeah.
that'll be cool.
I would say I follow quite a few like crocheters on Instagram because they like to share some free patterns on there.
Oh nice.
And I was like, I feel like I all of they have some similar themes. A big thing right now is like this clothing wrap that is just like your top and then it crosses. I don't
Mhm.
know if you can picture it from that, but there's a lot of like
Visualizing.
common things happening right now and they're cool, but like I want to try something new.
Right.
Also,
To
I'm
be
not really committed to making clothing yet.
Yeah.
It's a
oh yeah.
time commitment.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. I bet. Yeah. Well, that sounds cool. You have some cool, fun plans on the horizon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there any final note that you would have for any moms who feel like their only time is really after the kids go to bed, as far as how they can start exploring a hobby in that sense?
I would say I would almost say three things, and let's see if I
Oh,
can remember
good.
all my three things.
Thank you.
So the first thing is like stop feeling guilty about it.
Yeah.
There are no consequences, like I said.
Hmm.
The second one is you do not have to start with perfection.
Hmm.
Um, that was a big one I had to overcome because I was like, well, every hobby is going to cost so much. If you want to get yarn, or you want to get the hooks, or you want to get paint, any of this, like you have to have some type of kit.
Yeah.
Um, look on Amazon or look at Hobby Lobby or look at Michael's some craft place. You can even find them at TJ Maxx sometimes, like a little craft kit,
Oh,
Hmm.
and just grab it. Like I think my first crochet kit, which I still use the hooks from because hooks are can get expensive for some reason, which I guess fine, whatever. But it was like $5 or $10, and it had terrible yarn, but tons of hooks and stitch markers and all this stuff I could get started with. And that's what I did. I was like, okay, this is kind of intriguing. I like it. And then I
right.
drove to a store and was like, I'll get a yarn I actually like.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I started like a $3 new yarn and on the hooks I got for cheap on Amazon.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, it is okay to try multiple things
Mhm.
and not like it. You don't have to like a hobby.
Yeah.
Hmm.
If you don't like it, go to something else. Like you,
Yep.
and I guess number four is it is okay if you have the money to spend on your hobby. Like you can spend it. It is okay. I cannot tell you how many times that I've been like, well, I'd really like to do this, but should I really get yarn?
Hmm.
And one skein of yarn can be from like $2 to 10, 15, depending on what it is. But like also, what if I just swap? If I'm really feeling guilty about it, normally I'll swap my coffee run for the day and be like,
Hmm.
well, coffee's $5, the skein
Right.
of yarn is $5.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'll
Truly.
swap it.
Yep.
Yep. I also find,
Those are all great
and
tips.
I don't know if you've experienced this yet, because I know your kids are still a little younger, but like if I'm exploring a hobby for myself, I'll talk myself out of spending the money on it. But if it's my kids that are wanting it, I'm like throwing all of the like
Hmm.
everything
Yep.
they want at it. I'm like, of course you can. What else do you need?
Yeah.
You want yours gold plated? You got it.
Yes,
Yeah.
my son, I keep saying he's 5. So he's 5 again, but he is into Legos. He is very much into Legos. So I'm like, dude, whatever like you want this
Yeah.
Lego? Okay,
Yeah.
I will
Yes.
like I don't know, I'll pick up another client. We'll be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to get like do you want some LEDs to
Yeah.
put around your Lego creation? Should
Yes,
we put a
you do.
shelf in your room?
Yep.
Like, do you need another shelf in your room?
Mhm.
Or my daughter, she's really into dance. I'm like, all right, how many dance classes you want to take? What do you want to do? You want to do dance, tap, ballet? Oh, you want to do soccer too? Let's go. Whatever you
Mhm.
need, I'm here for you, girl.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yes, I'm like weighing like I could give this. Should I get tap shoes today? Should I get another dress? Should I get him some Legos or should I get some yarn? Like it is
Yeah.
very much. I can imagine it's gonna get bigger, better,
Yes.
worse,
Yeah.
bigger. I was gonna say
Yeah.
bigger, but
Yeah. More
it's gonna
so.
get
The
worse
budget
when
Yeah.
they
will
get
get
Yeah.
bigger.
bigger.
Yeah.
Yes, especially
Definitely.
for your hobby, your
Hmm.
family, because it sounds like your family really embraces hobbies. So you
Hmm.
guys are truly going to have that hobby
Hmm.
budget that
Hmm.
make sure you put yourself in there.
Hmm.
We're gonna need one. We started board games over
Yes.
Christmas,
Nice. Fun.
and we were unsure. I have such a hard time with imaginative play. Like
Mm.
it's so hard
Same.
for me to just sit there
Mhm.
and just do it, and it's so bad. Um, But I was like, you know what? We're gonna do board games and let's see if they can grab them. Because I mean, Uno, it's like matching numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Candyland, you work on pictures. I was like,
Mhm.
we can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can do this.
Mhm.
And I did, and they have loved it. So I'm like, all right, well, this will be another one. And oh, we play Magic the Gathering too, which is a card game.
Mhm.
That's something that my husband and I do together. We don't do it as often anymore because obviously, like children,
Yes.
but we still try and find time for it. But my son has always been interested in it. So as soon as he can read, I'm pretty sure we'll read Magic the Gathering cards. Like
Sure.
Fun.
we're working
Yeah.
on regular reading. Let's wait before we start working on
Absolutely.
game cards. But I'm pretty sure he'll be asking for his own deck and to play as well.
Yep. I love that. Well, Mckayla, it's been
Yeah.
so awesome having you
Mhm.
on our show today. I feel like you had a lot of interesting insights on how to like explore hobbies as a mom. And you gave some great tips to our audience. Do you want to give them any locations to find you? Tell them a little bit about what you're working on?
Yeah, sure. My best, if you want to find me for hobby things, it's probably the hobbymom.com. If you're curious about my blogging things, the things that I blog for other people, that's the Kama Mama. And you can find me on Threads or Instagram at kamamama.co.
Mhm.
There is blogging things here for my business, but Threads is a little unhinged and I'm everything.
It is
Yeah.
unhinged.
Love it.
Love it. Well, thank you
Yeah.
again so much for
Mhm.
joining us.
It's been great to have you.
Absolute pleasure to have you, Mckayla.
Of course, it was so fun to be here.
Thanks. Yeah. Awesome. Well, we can look forward to continuing to, connect with you online
Mhm.
and, just see where things go for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Bye,
Yeah.
Mckayla.